How y'all doing? For this book review, I'm going to go over this wonderful, quick read there. It is Michael Prestwick's Knight, the Medieval Warrior's Unofficial Manual. Okay, this is a series of books produced by Thames and Hudson, and written by different authors, but each series of books deals with a type of warrior from the past that we could be, we kind of romanticize or things like that. Other books in the series require samurai, which I did review a while back, although it didn't get that many views. And there's also Viking. And these books are written as pragmatic guides, again, of unofficial manuals. And for this case of Knight, it pretends to be a written as a book written for somebody in the medieval ages. Let's just say you're in medieval ages, you're aspired to be a knight, and while you may be inspired by the works of King Arthur and and El Cid and Sir Roland and Charlemagne and all them, what's the practical advice of becoming a knight? What's expected of you and all that? So, and this is a book written just that, just cuts all the things of like while it tells you to be virtuous, it doesn't really tells about the ideals, talks about the pragmatic advice to becoming a knight, what to get, how to make money, what's expected of you on and off battle. And so it's they're wonderful to read, especially if you're someone's young or just a casual person, doesn't know much, and you want a straightforward guide for what all knights are expected to go through. Let's see, now this goes through a set period of time. Let's see. It runs you around medieval, around 1300s or so, give or take. Oh yeah, 1300 to 1415. Every effort has been made to make the advice of this manual as up to date as possible. All the views expressed represent the opinions and knowledge of the period from 1300 to 1415. So it's written like that. You're a young kid in the Middle Ages, and you need a book that tells you, practical advice of being a knight. This could do it. And while it goes through several examples, to illustrate the points that this book makes, it focuses on 3 real-life knights as well. Joffrey the Charney, John Hawkwood, who's accessible, I think it was accessible mercenary. I'll get to that a bit. A knight is a mercenary? What does that mean? Is that disgraceful? No, it explains that. And it was one I cannot pronounce. Bausicaut? Or Bocacout? I forget. Jean II Le Mangre, it was nicknamed, like his father before, Buckacout, and the illusion of fishing net. So, sorry if I butchered that name. But to use these guys in several other examples, of other knights as well, to try to explain, what it takes to be a knight, and to illustrate the pros and cons and mistakes and the successes that they've made. And it goes through everything: upbringing and training, child's play, children's play, the first steps of learning how to fight. Toy knights made of pewter make good playthings. Edward I gave his son toy castles and a miniature siege engine to play with. Richard II had miniature guns as a boy. How to get them into it, what type of education they need, the physical training involved, hunting. It's. While you're not typically known to go into battle with a bow or crossbow, it'll teach you horseback riding and everything. And then after some training, you gotta be squired, and then from squire to knighthood, and then there's from knighthood you talk about joining military or knightly orders and how all they work, and well, of course, being a knight, you gotta think about, you need your weapons, you need a horse, and what all pieces you need from that. Where can you get the good stuff? How much do they cost? And where can I get some of the best stuff? And can I afford it? And it gives nice practical guides like this. This book is wonderfully illustrated with over 100 pieces of illustration, 113 to be exact, it says on the front page, and 22 of them in color. All these from actual historical manuals and what have you. I talk about the cost of maintenance. It gives a nice little list right here. What for all the pieces of all that. Talks about different horses you could use. The weapons, of course, use shield, sword, to expect of you. Also, don't forget lance. There's ones for jousting. There's also one for actual battle. There are differences in that. Other weapons, you got, axes, warhammers, crossbows, and all that. And you got, and each chapter deals with different aspects of becoming a knighthood, because you're expected to go into battle where you have to go in, into campaigns and all that. It teaches you how to organize that, because you can't just simply, let's just show up in a battle and go. So you gotta travel long distance, and you gotta get the food, you gotta get all your men prepared, you gotta get everything organized. There's also tournaments and jousts, which, good for practicing your combat skills, but don't think it's all safe and all that, because some people do get killed on that. And just a wonderful, straightforward guide, and on how what's expected to be a knight, what all they went through, and there is some form of tongue-in-cheek about it when they give some advice, because it's trying to tell it to you straight, and it's kind of, it can be horrifying or funny to a modern day standards. For instance, medical care back in medieval times, boy. And surgery is to be avoided at all, if at all possible. This illustration from the Treatise of Surgery by Roger of Salerno shows a doctor examining various wounds. It seems unlikely that he was able to cure any of these patients. See somebody taking a bath, someone got some arrows in him, dissection, and even talks about some of the major wounds that some of these knights went through. Of course, what if there was no war in your area of war? What if you're in England and there's currently no battles, but you still need experience or you need money? Well, you could go on crusade, and that'll give you some church-supported and some combat experience and maybe some fortune. But if you really want to go on crusade and make some money, you go to the Balkans. There's a lot of stuff you can go over there, fight the pagans and the heathens over there, and much more profitable at this time. And of course, mercenaries. Now, of course, mercenaries are paid soldier, and you figure a knight's a lord, he should be of higher virtue. Well, no, many knights do go over and become mercenaries, particularly in Italy, where they would have, where their whole means of defense is just strolling on mercenaries. And some of the most successful people are knights. And they illustrate for many of those. And it's a good way to make money if you're successful. And it goes about that. Of course, talks about what's a knight without a lady to be by his side, potentially his wife. What are women at this time like, and what's expected of them, how you should treat them and everything. And were all women virtuous, and if not, how so? What about courtly love? That's a different type of love than normal. But of course, as a knight, you expect to find horseback and all that, but there are different things you gotta lead, like sieges. How do you take over a castle? What sort of equipment is used? Siege weapons, trebuchet, colliard, springard, dassault, belfry, all that. Great practical advice, and it's let's see. And also, the final chapter talks about how is it you are to be remembered after you die, especially if you've done a lot of good deeds. Well, what sort of things can you get that will have people go pilgrimages to the churches you'll be buried in? And you could talk about like painting inscriptions, or maybe if you have the money, get a fully carved sarcophagus. There's also the fact you go into battle and you ignore the peasants. Even though you're a virtuous knight, the peasants are not people you associate with. Doesn't matter, if they're on your side or the other side. They're just fair game. But what if you got a high-ranking noble or even a king and all that? Well, you can always sell for ransom. There's instructions on how to do that. So, as I say, these are fun books to read, straight to the point of what is expected to be of a knight or any of the warriors they chose in this series. But I like it's kind of straightforward, and some of the horrifying stuff can be somewhat humorous presented as it is, where it's just kind of matter of fact at the time. This is good for the regular layperson that just wants a good, straightforward book about the knights itself. For those who are interested, kind of cut the myths and the high romance away from that. It just talks about the straightforward, down to earth information. Another advantage this book that has is like a quick guide. Say, for instance, you're inspired to write a fantasy series, and you were inspired, of course, in most cases, like the medieval Europe. Well, some of the best fantasies were taken from the author's writing, taking from the historical era, and then deriving from that, as opposed to say they only reading fantasy series and then exaggeration. Comic books went through that, in some cases still do. So this is a good book to put in your collection to understand what historical context is, and you could take that and derive your own direction. That's just advice right there. So there you go. Knight and Medieval Warriors Unofficial Handbook. A very nice read, and also others' book of different fighters as well. As I say, I've already done Samurai, and I didn't get too many views on that, but still, it's out there. There's also Viking, Legionnaire, and Gladiator. I think maybe Centurion. I could be wrong. I could be in Legionnaire, but there you go. Knight, the Medieval Warriors Unofficial Manual by Michael Presswick. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice day.